Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana. Let's get into this. So, so we are going over the rules and laws, as it pertains to land, water, and the spirit realm. And it's extremely important. Yeah, I'm sorry, we just had to get directly into this. It's extremely important that we understand that there are regulations and certain things set in place that govern us in each of these dimensions. Yes, the water is a dimension. When I'm speaking of water, yes, I am pertaining to large bodies of waters, especially the waters of the ethers, right, is one. Then we have oceans and seas and lakes. Not necessarily lakes, but we can throw it in there, right? Not like ponds, not these really small bodies, but even like a lagoon or a fall, right? Anything that is large enough to push you into a direction that you don't want to go in, pretty much, okay? Now, we discussed spiritual gifts. If you're just tuning in, then you're probably going to have to go back a few segments because we did go over the difference between the laws and the rules, and we're going to cover them a little more. We're going to delve into it a little deeper, but it was important for us to go over this first just so it can make sense later, okay? Now, we've discussed our spiritual gifts as they pertain to each of these dimensions. Still focusing on the laws and the rules, but we're really just going to break down just a plethora of things, okay? Just to make it make sense, okay? Now, sex, okay? Sex is another one of those things that a lot of people, I hope at this point, are no longer writing off as just something to do. It's a very highly spiritual exchange. And it is the way to do a lot of things spiritually. Of course, you can get a child, right? What's more spiritual than creating a baby, a new life, right? Via sex, you can tap into someone's aura field. And this is sex as it pertains to the spirit world. First of all, any type of sex that happens, right, on this plane, it happens in the spiritual world first. It has to. Everything that manifests here has already happened in the spiritual realm. All right. What goes up must come down. As above, so below. All that good stuff, right? Now, when you start thinking of sex, as we were just saying, it is a highly spiritual exchange. So you have to be conscientious of even how you perceive sex, especially if you don't have the best relationship with your sexual partners or just your sexual history in itself. Like if it isn't the best history, you might want to be careful, okay? Other than being able to peek and pry into someone's energetic field, you are actually simply becoming a part of another person's field. And of course, we know whoever you have sex with, you're having sex with the people they had sex with and the people they had sex with. That's mainly spiritual. When you hear people say that, of course, we're speaking of the physical body. But when you think of it that way, it's more of in the spiritual aspect. Okay? So you want to be careful with how you even understand sex and what it is. Number one, we've already said sex happens in the ethers first, okay? Happens in the spiritual realm first. Everything that happens here happens up there first, okay? and it's filtered and watered down by the time we see it, depending on what it is, especially if it's an attack or certain things like that. But when it comes to sex, other than, first of all, when you look at two people having sex, this was the original meaning of people being married, okay? It means that they're married in spirit when they are having sex physically. Of course, we have these traditional rules, and that didn't come until later. But even when you looked at the Egyptians, anytime people had sex, they were considered to be married spiritually, right? This sex is the union or the merging of two energies coming into one. So a lot of us hear the term two becoming one. I'm sorry, we had a little interruption. But yes, the merging of two souls coming together, right? And that's a spiritual exchange. Even if the creator didn't say he specifically wants these two spirits to be combined in order to create a life or accomplish something in the spirit realm, because these two spirits coming together causes a particular frequency in the ethers or on earth or all over, right? Wherever he's saying he wants, however and wherever he wants this thing to be, you have to remember the spiritual aspect of yourself comes from sex, okay? So sex is very important to life itself. So we've already, we know, right? Sex is where you get life from. Well, now these days, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that because that is definitely going off topic, okay? Another thing, when God is allowing you to engage in sexual activities, meaning when your body becomes ready, and a lot of people will say, oh yeah, this is puberty, if you will. Of course, we have legal situations and circumstances in different cultures and traditions that will further indicate or determine when someone might be ready to have sex, right? Even religion, in certain areas, depending on the law of the land. But just to kind of keep this, balanced and equivalent across the board, let's just say puberty is one of those spiritual signs when your body would be ready for sex, okay? This is going to vary from person to person. A lot of these different indications that you might indeed be ready for sex can be generational. It can be genetic. I'm sorry, genetic was the word that I meant to use. Yeah. Not to mention, there are other things, right, that happen in the spirit realm, and it will manifest, and we'll get to that because then that would be the physical aspect, right, or the on land aspect of sex. But not aside from this being like it's obvious, okay, that it's a spiritual exchange. We get that part. The thing here is, in the ethers, sex is literally like the main thing that a lot of people need to realize how people are manipulated, have illusions cast upon them. And sometimes sex can lead you into different things that you probably shouldn't be in, or they can put you exactly where you need to be, okay? So there's a particular level of spiritual maturity that is required when you are going to be engaging in sex. People have sex in spirit all the time. It's what lust is. In fact, people have sex in their minds before they physically do it. They have it in their, and I'm not saying in spirit again, as in like the same thing I just said. I'm saying they have it in sex and spirit in the sense of lust, right? This is where that desire comes from. Okay, your imagination and your desire is combined, and it creates this depiction, or this, I guess, idea and attraction. Okay, and this is how all of these different things come up for it to actually happen. The main idea here is to open your mind up and understand that your body is connected to a spirit. Your spirit is connected to a body. And sex is what gives your spirit this clay, okay? It is indeed essential, okay? It's very important, and you have to be willing to look at it as a force, right? It's an assistance to the force of life. So you have to be willing to understand that sex is not just for your pleasure. Sex is not just for us to procreate. Sex is the actual link between our bodies and our flesh. And our spirits. Okay? You have to open yourself up to understand that this requires a particular, I don't know what to call it, a level of, I want to be fancy with this, but it just requires a relationship with the astral plane. So, and this doesn't mean that people who can't procreate don't have a relationship with the astral world. It just is a particular vibration that you need to be tapped into in order to procreate, okay? This is one of those things where I really kind of didn't want to have this discussion, and I'm like, God, are you sure I'm supposed to go into this? But yeah, it's extremely important for us to realize that sex is definitely more than pleasure, right? Because lust is not a good thing, okay? And we use our bodies to act out these desires that are sometimes outlandish. You have to be willing to realize your body is only for this plane, this dimension. We talked about that, okay? And not to mention your interest, your perception, your understanding, your definition, and your engagement of sex is also going to determine all of how this literally can just take you from one meaning and wanting to the next. A lot of us believe that we have to have sex, and we do not. Allow the Creator to place you in the right mind space to be engaging. And I'm not saying oh, you need to be married to be doing that. No, I'm saying literally, okay? But I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. I love y'all. I'm making this short tonight. Alright, peace.